PharmaVentures, experts in deals and alliances.
Hello and welcome to PharmaVentures Insights here in London at Genesis 2016. On the show today I have Sarah Hayward, the Chief Executive of MedCity. Sarah, welcome.
Thank you.
So we've talked before, so we know a little bit about MedCity, but that was a little while ago. So you've had a big change since we last spoke, and that's the administration change here in London.
Yes.
Perhaps you talk a little bit about whether that's had any impact at all, or what it means to MedCity.
Yeah, absolutely. So to remind you, we are an organisation that was set up over 2 years now, launched in April 2014, with the Mayor of London as one of our founders. So the Mayor of London and the Greater London Authority is one of our backers, along with the academic institutions across London and the Golden Triangle. So of course for us, a big change this year, back in May when Sadiq Khan was voted in as the new Mayor of London. So a very significant change for us in terms of that political leadership, and really understanding for us initially the extent to which he thought life sciences was going to be part of what he wanted to do moving forward. We were fairly confident that it would be, because as he came in, part of his manifesto was a desire to be the most business-friendly mayor that London has had. And we thought therefore that our mission, which is around economic growth through life sciences and supporting life sciences activity in the broad, would fit very well with that manifesto commitment. And unfortunately, he clearly is interested. Of course, what we had expected as our kind of early engagement with him was derailed a little bit by the Brexit vote. Mm-hmm. And that clearly took quite a lot of his attention and continues to do so. But the great news for us is that he is very supportive of life sciences. He continues to see it as a very important driver of economic activity in London and wishes to support it. We have a new Deputy Mayor for Business, Rajesh Agrawal, who is also really committed to the sector. So that's very positive for us, and we continue to motor at full speed consequently.
Well, that's great news for you and for London, so that the future's bright, and
yes,
you're going to be able to continue with the good work that you've done so far. So you said you're 2 years in. What have you achieved so far?
We've achieved quite a lot so far, bearing in mind that we started from scratch. Mm-hmm. back in April 2014. One of the things that we do is that we provide what we call a front door service to the region, to the Greater South East of England, with a particular focus on London, Oxford and Cambridge. The idea behind that being that even if you're a domestic company, but if you're a young and small company or a more established one, or you're a company coming in from overseas, it can be really difficult to find your way through the ecosystem of life sciences and healthcare activity in the region. You know, how do you connect with the universities? How do you find an academic that you might want to collaborate with? How do you find space to set up? All of those issues. And since we set up, we've seen really large numbers and growing numbers of people come and use us to help them to get themselves settled into the ecosystem here. So we now see several hundred different organisations every year, all of whom are looking for some kind of help to get themselves operating effectively. And that can be, as I said, anything from advice about how to work with the NHS to we're looking for wet lab space, where might we be able to find some, through to investors actually coming now increasingly and saying that they're interested in potentially investing into companies in the region, and can we help them to find what they're looking for. Some of the key things that I think have been real successes for us have been our angel investing program that we set up. We launched Angels in MedCity quite early on in our life in 2014. We have now run pitching events where around 40 companies have come and pitched to a community of business angels that we've been growing. All of those companies are life sciences and healthcare businesses, and they're coming to pitch to an audience of angels who know that they're coming to see life sciences and healthcare companies. And a number of those have gone on to secure angel funding from syndicates of angels that they've met through those events. So that's one thing we're extremely proud of, and we know that companies that have come through that have raised over £10 million of funding now. Back in April this year, we launched a report setting out the demand for wet lab space and incubation space for London. That was something that had never existed previously, looking across the whole of the city. And we know already that that report is being used by policymakers, but also by investors and property developers thinking about potentially creating new laboratory space in London. So lots of things like that. I guess the other thing that maybe to give you just another taster is we've been successful in securing European funding to sit alongside existing funding that we have to run some really interesting programmes moving forward. So one of which, working in conjunction with the academic health science networks and the NHS in London, is an acceleration programme called Digital Health London Accelerator, where we're taking a cohort of approximately 30 companies and really helping them to work effectively in the NHS so that they can move towards commercialisation much faster and more effectively than they could have done on their own. And another programme that we're in the process of selecting projects for, which is called Collaborate to Innovate, which is going to be funding a number of collaborations between small businesses and the academic base in London. And that is all about trying to encourage SMEs and academia to work with each other, which is something they don't do very well at the moment. So lots going on and lots of things which we feel are going ahead really well.
So having a real impact. You mentioned digital health there, and it's a bit of a buzzword. There's lots of people talking about digital health. But is there any particular aspect of it that you're working in, or is it a very broad church for you?
Well, we're working across the whole of London. So MedCity is a partner in a programme of work which we've called Digital Health London. We're a partner along with the 3 London academic health science networks and also with the NHS in London. And with that, we are trying to do a number of things, one of which is to help connect the supply side, the entrepreneurial technological side, to the demand side, so the clinicians and the patients that are looking for technological solutions but don't necessarily know what is there. So we're helping those two communities to connect. As I said, we're running this accelerator programme, which is really using London and the capability in the NHS in London to help companies access the support and assistance they need from within the NHS to develop their products and services in the NHS context so that they've got the best possibility of successfully taking products to market in such a way that they actually meet the requirements of the NHS, not something that they think the NHS needs. It's very much about trying to make sure that the demand side is played in. And then some of the other things that we're doing is to, through this programme, is to really try and look at some of the challenges that are facing the entrepreneurial side, but also decision makers, and that's particularly focused around evidence. So what we hear all of the time, whether it be from commissioners, whether it be from clinicians, whether it be from procurement specialists in the NHS, is that they need to ensure that companies have got the right evidence to demonstrate the case for their technology being safe and effective and meeting the right standards for technology. And at the moment, the regulation is trying to play catch up with the technology. And one of the things that we've been trying to do is to help convene and bring together the different players, NICE, the clinical research networks, academic thinking in this space, the Office for Life Sciences, and help to offer London as a living laboratory to help to try and work out some of the things that need to be solved.
Right.
And help then to communicate that to entrepreneurs so that they're doing the right things rather than investing into, say, trial activity or evaluation activity that then a commissioner might say, well, I don't recognise this as being the right thing.
Right. So it's relevant. That connectivity that you're bringing brings relevancy to the work that these people are doing, so that ultimately you're establishing, you're meeting an unmet need in a patient setting, but also that there's a market out there for it. So
yes, absolutely.
And you're doing that for people at a very early stage, so they get that relevancy key early on, rather than spending a long time developing and then going, hey, I did it wrong.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So let me ask you, the NHS.
Yes.
It's in the news a lot, and we all depend on it heavily, and I think we all love it and what it does. But they seem they're very patient focused. They're all about the patient, and blessed it struggles a lot with the resources that it has. So how can it find time to do these sort of things as well?
Well, you're absolutely right in terms of your analysis. What we would say is there is no choice really, because we know that demand for services within the NHS outstrips its ability to be able to supply. And the only way that it really can look at increasing capacity and increasing supply is to embrace digital solutions. It's not the only answer, but digital technologies has a huge potential to transform the way that healthcare is delivered. And certainly a number of the companies that are going through the Digital Health Accelerator programme, Digital Health.London Accelerator, are looking at ways in which care can be delivered in different ways in which the patient can be empowered to do more self-management and only to engage with the NHS when they need it, rather than they have to go every 3 months or whatever, the current protocol says. Ways in which to improve resource efficiency in terms of trying to reduce the number of appointments that patients just don't turn up to. So we think it's absolutely imperative that the NHS does take time and does invest. And what we're trying to do through our programme, but also some of the national programmes like the NHS Innovation Accelerator programme, which is run out of UCL Partners in London, but is a national scheme, is that they're about trying to create some capacity in the system in order to allow these technologies to be trialled and developed specifically to meet the needs of the NHS and therefore to help both sides really embrace that technology.
So this is an absolutely vital cog in the wheel. If we're to have the innovation and have an NHS that we can all still access with the best treatments and medicines available, that this connectivity continues to happen.
Exactly.
Excellent. Let me ask you one more question about the innovator side of it. And are you seeing any changes in the characteristics of the sort of companies that approach you for help, or are they the same as they always were, or are they doing different things?
We're certainly seeing a constant flow of digital entrepreneurs. It's quite interesting for me personally because when I started working with MedCity 3 years ago now, we didn't really expect to see that, and I'd been working in life sciences a decade ago, and digital technology in healthcare wasn't even a twinkle in anybody's eye. The term digital health didn't exist. We immediately have seen a steady flow of companies, and in fact that's been increasing, and that's one of the reasons for setting up this dedicated programme, so that we can pull together the activities across a set of like-minded organisations. What we have found is quite interesting over the last year or so is that we're getting more investors coming and talking to us across the whole spectrum. So investors that are interested in looking for new technology, or are interested in potentially setting up new funds out of the UK. And that's really exciting, because we think access to finance is an absolutely critical issue. And the more that we can help and facilitate funding to be opened up for investable companies, the better. So that's something that we're very keen to support and encourage moving forward, having seen a kind of a really nice increase in those kind of inquiries coming our way.
And again, it's that connectivity between both ends now, and you're getting pull as well as push, and you're the important piece in the middle.
Yes, yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Well, Sarah, it'd be great if you can come back maybe in a little while and speak to us again about some digital successes.
I'd love to do that. Thanks
we'll
very
look forward
much.
to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
PharmaVentures, experts in deals and alliances.